Hey y'all, how's everybody doing? I hope you all are well, um, and everything's good in your world. I have some new journals that are going in the Etsy shop, and when this video goes up, these will be listed. So, if you're interested in looking at the flip through of these, grab yourself a snack, cup of coffee, whatever you need, because this is probably going to be a long video. So, finished up those last vintage style journals that I did, I don't know, a month or so ago, and it might even been longer now, a couple months ago. And then I needed to finish Renee's, so I finished Renee's, and hers is going to be a surprise. I'm not going to do a flip through of hers, so she can do that on her channel if she wants to. But I have 4 new vintage style journals, and they're all similar, but of course a little bit different. So they're all using 3 of them are repurposed books, and this cover was made from scratch. So I'm going to start with this one, and of course, do I have my ruler? No. Okay. Let me just give you a real quick. So this one is the first one I'm going to flip through. Okay. And this one I did show in the video a while back of what I was working on. Okay. And then, and there's going to be a nice goodie pack that I'm not going to go through. That's going to be a surprise if you purchase one of these. So there's that one. Excuse me. And there is this lady. And all of these images came from Ruby and Pearl XO from her digitals. So there's this one, okay? And this cover was made from scratch, okay? And goodies that will come with that. And all the goodies will be packaged up nicely, and similar. So then there's this little gem. I love this little girl right here, okay? This is a smaller 2 signature journal, and I'll give you all the measurements later, and the little package of goodies that will come with her. And then I love how this little one came out. So there's this little gem and the nice little pack of goodies that will come with her. Okay. So there's 4 of them, and like I said, they're all similar but different. There will be some of the same elements, and some different, okay? So this little girl, I think she's so pretty, is, it's one of the wraps that I made. All of them have, well, one of them is attached, but this one is the wrap. So this journal is 6 by 9 1/4 with a 2, I think this is a 2-inch spine. Let's see, so 2-inch, yeah, with a 2-inch spine with 3 signatures, and then I have stitched on, well, tied on the buttons, and then I did put a little dab of glue behind them so that they don't come untied, and so they're a little more stable, okay, so they don't slide around as much. But there's this beautiful lace on here on top of this beautiful vintage sheet fabric, okay? And then this is I believe is probably antique at this point, this little piece of vintage cotton lace. And there's another piece of it down here. This was the one I had debated keeping for myself, but no, I'm not going to. I'm gonna put her in the shop. And then I just stuck this little, there's a little turn, and I'm not sure the age of this, but this is an old vintage earring that I just stuck on there just because I thought it was pretty. And then she's tied with this sari ribbon. Okay, so that comes off. And then you have this beautiful blue linen. There's some glue on there. It's a linen texture book, but I've layered several vintage, and I think this is antique right here, probably at this point, but vintage for sure. There's a doily back here. There's some of that diary, and then some of the vintage, and this is going to still fray a little bit. Hold on. Vintage feed sack back here. Not feed sack, grain sack. Okay, grain sack here. And some cheesecloth under there. So several layers of just really pretty stuff. And then, you know, this is a printable, so I attached it to a little bit thicker paper, and then I did some aging with the vintage photo and stitched around it, and then added this really pretty flower that I found in my stash. And this is a pearl button, really old button, really pretty. And there's a lot of really pretty buttons throughout these projects. I'll tell you now, throughout these books, I went through, you know, my buttons, and I picked out, you know, some of my favorite really pretty buttons. So anyway, so this is the front and back of this one, and you can see it's packed with a lot of fun stuff, but if you pull a lot of that out, you do have a lot of room to do your own thing. There's still a lot of journaling space, blank space, for you to do your own thing. So there's this vintage lace here that I made into a pocket on the front and then on the back, okay, and tucked some extra little goodies for you to play with in there. Excuse me. So there's just some little journaling cards that I made from Ruby and Pearl. This is Ruby and Pearl digital, and so are these. And then I just attached like a is it a file folder? I think yeah, these are file folder bags, and then stitched around them. So there's a bunch of vintage lace throughout here. There's pockets, there's tags, two really pretty vintage buttons here. And then this was inspired by Heather at Rosehill Paper Cottage. She made, she did a tag with a hidden pocket behind it, and it kind of flipped. And then I had all these pieces of file folder, so I just made this one in here is, they're all a little bit different, but I made sort of a similar one for each book. So this is a little pocket here. This was, you know, when you cut the green file folders, I cut some up to make like flip out tags, and this one I just turned into a pocket. I embossed it, if you can see that. And then I just did some layering on the front. I kept it pretty simple so that if you want to add other little things, journaling, little tags, or other little bits on here, you could do your own thing on that. So this is part of a printable. This is vintage music. This is vintage wallpaper, if you can really see that, yeah. And then this is a vintage, like receipt, from a vintage receipt book. And then this is another set of printables from Ruby and Pearl. And I love these. They're like old vintage photographs of flowers. So they're really cool. And then this is not vintage tape. This is from, you know how they put like the transparencies, kind of like the vellum in between a postage stamp book and stuff like that. That's what that came from. Anyhow, so that's just a little hidden pocket, so you can attach it in here. Then I put, and here's one of those vintage railway ledgers. And then I just clip this in, okay? So you can move that around, put it wherever you want to. So similar to, everything in here is gonna be like a mixture of vintage music. There's some, I think this was some of Rosemary's Echo dyed paper, digitals, wallpaper. So there's wallpaper here, and there's some things tucked in here. This is from a field guide. It's like a signature from a field guide in here. Rusty paper clips that I made myself, and you can see, you know, some of that is is coming off, but I like that. Some of Renee's avocado dyed paper. This is a little pocket I made with some washi and book page. And some of these are graphics fairy images. This is a graphics fairy that I just backed with some old ledger and stitched around it. This is like an invoice kind of, well, stationery, old stationery. And then I embossed some paper. So as you can see, there is a lot of, and yeah, see that's coming off. So you get that nice little rusty bit. Really pretty buttons in the signatures. This is also a printable, and I can't remember if this was, I think this might have been Graphics Fairy. So what I did here was, this was also inspired by, I can't remember if it was Heather at Ruby and Pearl or Rosehill Paper Cottage, where she used like an old transparency or old like vellum on the back, and I used some of that old postage stuff and just made this look really pretty tag of this lady that she just clips in here. You know, and you can take that out and use it as a cover on another book. Here's some vintage lace I just made into a ruffle and put some buttons and one of my little beads on. And there's a tag in here, and some vintage old kind of little small ledger book. Yeah, like a time record. So that's in there. And then this is the, not texture paste, but the drywall stuff, the stenciling here on this page. And I thought this was kind of pretty. I don't know if you can see this. This says Juliet on here. This came from an old book. And actually, I think it may have come from this small book. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I pull stuff from everywhere, y'all, and then I'm not good about remembering where I got it from. Anyway. And then here is just I just stuck a Edith Holden book page there. This is Tim Holtz scrapbook paper, and then I just stitched, I actually didn't stitch this in the book. I stitched this and then glued it in the book like that. So this is some real pretty vintage lace. More vintage lace, different type texture with a little bead that I made. You can see that. More embossed paper. This is some really pretty paper. I think this came from Phaedra. I think she sent this to me in some Happy Mail. And then I made a pocket here and a pocket here with some lace. So this is a printable. And then it's a pocket up here with this really pretty lace. And then more vintage, that vintage diary. There's so much in that, you guys. So you'll be seeing that a lot when I do this type of journal. And then this is just a Tim Holtz paper. Then I made into a tag. Vintage, true vintage ledger. More ledger. More coffee dyed paper. This is a wallpaper. This is actually a Edith Holden that I made into an envelope. But I left it so if you want to actually, use it as an envelope, you can glue it or you can leave it like that. Another pocket with, now this is a printable. This is a piece of a printable ledger. And then I stuck a little piece of that vellum that I embossed for you to use. And then another tag in here with the embossed paper backed with like a brown paper. And then this is a pocket here. And this is a really pretty vintage lace that I picked up recently. If you watched a couple of videos back, if you watched the haul where I got all the eyelet lace and stuff, this was in here. and then more of the texture on a really old, and I believe this is an old French book page. Some of that stone paper, more embossed paper. Here I attached a little silver button with a little tiny vintage key, like a little diary key. All right, this video will take forever, y'all, if I keep explaining everything. There's a pocket that I made with a tag. It's just clipped in. And then here I just put a little snippet. I actually did glue this little tab in. I pinned these little pieces together, but then I glued them in. These little snippets of, this is an antique lace. This is probably close to being, this came off an old, like petticoat, a really old slip, I guess is what they called a petticoat back then. Some more really pretty vintage lace and another little bead. Some more of that stone paper. And then here I just attached some more fun stuff for you to play with, and another tag with this beautiful little heart up here, which I'm pretty sure came off of a piece of jewelry at some point. So one of my little tags. I had a lot of fun making these things, guys. So you got to be careful with that paper clip, because some of that, yeah, there we go. I had a lot of fun making these guys. You know, like I said, not necessarily my my main sort of style that I go to, but I really have enjoyed this, and I can see myself making things like this in the future. So here's a pocket that I made out of a Tim Holtz page, and then I just added this little washi here and put some more little tags in there. These are Graphics Fairy. This is just a book page, you know, tag and ledger tag I made. And then here I made this instead of doing a pocket here and a pocket here, I made this a side pocket and put this little tag that I made in here. And it just tucks right there. So I thought it looked pretty with the ribbon hanging out of that. Here's one of those acetate pages. Oh, and I think I might have stapled it in backwards, but that Jessica sent me. And I just stapled it up there so that can easily be, you know, moved. Flip back around the right way. I just realized I did that. The things we do. More of that beautiful avocado dyed paper. More ledger, true ledger. Tim Holtz paper, more vintage buttons. Another antique lace pocket. And this is a ruby and pearl printable. Another Tim Holtz tag. Just really, really, really pretty books and lots of space. And then here in this back pocket, I took, I just punched a hole through these papers and made kind of like a little scrap pad with some pretty papers for you to use throughout. Okay, and then just tied a bow and then tucked it in this little pocket. Another little snippet. This is just pinned in, so you can take these out. This is a bag that I put wallpaper on, and there's some more fun stuff in there. And then another envelope. And then back here, there's a couple more extra pieces. It's just kind of a plain tag that, you know, I kind of use some of the scraps and put some things together. Some old music, and this old, really pretty old ledger that you can use. So there's still a ton of, you know, a ton of space in here, a ton of writing space, a ton of goodies inside the book, and then you're gonna get lots of fun pieces to play with here as well, okay? So that is the first one. I gotta keep all this together, y'all. And let's see, yeah, so 20 minutes. So, all right, so we'll do this beautiful lady next. And then here's the stuff that will come with her. And these little extra packets are similar, but there are different things in each one based on what I used in each book and, you know, what I thought would be really pretty with these. So she is, let's see, 6.5 by 9, and yeah, with the 2-inch spine as well. Now, what I did with her is I started out to do this as a tie, and then and when I did this part, it was just flopping around everywhere. It was driving me crazy. So then I just decided to glue this whole thing down. Okay, so oops, I hit my camera. So then it ties, but when it opens, you know, all of this is attached, okay? Which makes it much easier to work in. But I use this beautiful piece of, I guess it's like a small sort of runner type doily that you would put on, I would think a dressing table where you would put your, you know, makeup or perfume bottles, or maybe like a small table with tea. I'm not sure what they use these little small pieces for, but it was just really pretty, and it worked out perfect on this, so that I could kind of frame her, and then it just worked perfect. And then I did a little, I did some layering here, and this is a fairly sturdy piece back here. This is like a chipboard piece that I embossed, and then I took some white, a little bit of white ink across it, and then layered this piece. And this actually was on an older project that's been in my stash forever, and I came across it when I was cleaning out, and I was like, that would be perfect on this book. And this is glued on with some gem type glue, so it should not go anywhere. And you know, made a ruffle with some of that really pretty vintage lace. And then the cover, I had actually made this cover a long time ago, y'all. This was in my stash when I was cleaning out, and I found it. And I don't remember where I picked this fabric up. It might have been like some pieces like I picked up at maybe Michael's or probably not Michael's, but Tuesday morning or Hobby Lobby or something. And it was just like this one piece, or, you know, not a big, huge piece. And I started this cover, and it's chipboard under here, so it's like 3 different pieces of chipboard, and then you glue your fabric to it, and then you know, it's just glued on. It's not stitched around or anything, but you can see I love how the edges did. But then I just didn't have stuff at the time that really went with it, so I stuck it in a box with my covers, and that's where it stayed. And inside is just like a sort of a canvasy type cloth. And I just left it for the neutral. I didn't change it. I didn't add paper to it or anything like that. I just really like, I like how this is, and it's got some flexibility. You know, it lays nice and flat for you to work in it. Anyway, really, just a really pretty book. And then I took this, vintage. This was a round, like a sort of a small sort of tablecloth, but look at the flowers on this. This I picked up at my favorite store a couple of weeks back, and I think I may have shared it in that video. But I love these flowers. So I just made some pockets out of those pieces, out of a couple of those pieces, and then tuck some goodies in it. So this one has 4 signatures, and I haven't counted the pages, y'all. So when I put it in the shop, I'll try to count all the pages and that stuff, and give, you know, details. So there's some goodies tucked in here. So there's some leftover scraps from this, and then some vintage, you know, vintage music, and then one of the Railway Vintage Ledger pages. Some ruffles out of some sari trim, and then this little charm that I made, this little bead charm that I made that has the butterfly on it. And this is Vintage Market paper. I did use Tim Holtz paper in the other book. So there's a few pieces of scrapbook paper, you know, throughout these two. But the majority of it is all different, you know, all other kinds of paper. Digital. This is some handmade paper that I purchased. I did not make, but it's really nice paper. This is one of those little Tim Holtz cabinet card things that I just stuck a digital photo in. And a little Graphics Fairy postcard that I backed. And a little vintage postage stamp. So this one probably is not quite as packed as the first one, but there's still really cool stuff in here. So this is, I believe this is, this came from Jessica, I think, in a page pack she sent me with some Happy Mail. I think this is German. But it's just really neat. It's like a, sort of a dictionary or an English type language. Yeah. Something like that. Then there's vintage music. And this is fairly fragile, so be careful with it. I kind of reinforced it down here so it can make it like a little tuck spot. More of Renee's paper, vintage ledger, vintage invoice. This is like a resume paper that I embossed. You can see that. I don't know if you can really see. The camera doesn't really pick it up really well. But really pretty, really nice feeling paper. And then the same thing in here. I went through my buttons and picked out really pretty buttons. Let me see the detail on that. That's true vintage. This is a printable. I just made like this little sort of, I don't know where I was going with that. I think I was going to do a little tuck or something. I just ended up tucking it there. This is one of Ruby and Pearl's printables. Excuse me. I love this this paper. It's 49 in Market. Is that what I called it? It's 49 in Market paper. This is Tim Holtz paper. Took a really old, this is from like 1896 prescription. Jessica Rapp sent me a bunch of those too, and I made this little pocket out of that. And then here's a little, this came from a paper line, and then here's one of my tags that I made. So just made a little, I'm also enjoying doing the top pockets like that. I think that's super fun. And then here, I just clipped in this really pretty green doily, and then made this little card. This is another one of Ruby and Pearl's printables. And then I just took these little scrap pieces and a rusty safety pin, and then a vintage button right there. Another little stamp and a little printable postcard from Graphics Fairy. This is some really beautiful ledger. This is Graphics Fairy. This is a printable from the Graphics Fairy. Tea dyed paper. This is vintage ledger. Really pretty. It doesn't look it, but it is. And here's the little pocket I made in here. And guys, I'm like right at 30 minutes, so I think I'm gonna stop this video here, and I'm gonna do a part 2, and I will be back shortly, because if I make this like an hour long, it takes forever to upload. Anyway, apologies for the abrupt decision to do this, but anyway, so I'll be back with part 2. Love you guys.